Companies used to be focused on making as much money as possible, and that meant making content that their audiences wanted to consume. But over the past couple of years, so many companies have changed their franchises drastically in order to chase a new modern audience, and of course, that hasn't worked out very well for them. But unfortunately, the next franchise that seems to be on the chopping block is 007. Over the years, we've heard a lot of rumors and reports that they're considering race swapping James Bond or even gender swapping, but now we're finding out that with the upcoming game, 007 First Light, they are completely ditching the franchise lore for a whole new James Bond. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, obviously, I, like many other people, absolutely love 007. I want to see a new game come out and for it to be phenomenal. I want the next actor that's chosen to be the best of the best, but unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of faith in this, or unfortunately, a lot of faith in Amazon. This is not surprising when you look at their track record over the past couple of years. And, well, after the Wheel of Time and the Rings of Power and the $100 million they've put into Tomb Raider, and that's gone nowhere, I have no faith in them making a good next movie, or even IO Interactive creating a next new game in partnership with them. Now, when I hear that a franchise is being ripped apart limb by limb, I personally lose any excitement that I had for that product. And 007 First Light's initial teasers and trailers didn't necessarily look bad. I personally thought that it was kind of bizarre that they were going for such a young Bond because he's going to be 26. I thought perhaps what they would end up doing was they would make it a trilogy, and eventually by the end he would kind of be the James Bond that you know and love, but this is a standalone, so it doesn't look like that's their plan, which strikes me as odd. This kind of looks like Hitman and Uncharted having a baby, but, well, we know that they are ditching the franchise lore, which makes me, of course, extremely disappointed and also worried. Now, this is an article by Rolling Stone. I personally don't really like them, but they are, of course, excited for this idea. They're saying it's new and it's fresh and this could be really cool. They talk about the history of the Bond franchise and how, of course, James Bond always comes back in one form or another, whether it's being dragged out of retirement or bouncing back from a bout of amnesia in author Ian Fleming's original serial novels, or the generational reboots that allowed Bond to be acceptably recast over 25 feature films. There's always a way for 007 to start anew, and this is how they're doing it. It says, though, that following a younger Bond who has yet to obtain his 00 status, First Light treads new ground for the franchise, going even farther back than the opening scene of 06's Casino Royale, where Craig's iteration earned him a call sign. With a new MQ and entirely original supporting cast, the Hitman devs are taking a bold swing, introducing the world to the first fresh take on Bond in gaming since 2012's 007 Legends, and well before Amazon's own cinematic reboot emerges. This is my major problem, is that ultimately, they're just following Amazon's guidance. Amazon is the one who, of course, controls Bond now, and they are the ones who are coming up with these partnerships. Unfortunately, Amazon is also a company that does not give a fuck about source material. We've seen it happen time and time and time again. Here's an article about the Rings of Power. It was a massive flop that most viewers gave up on. It completely disrespected Tolkien's source material. It was a laughable attempt at an adaptation, and unfortunately, no matter how you look at this, it's a flop. If you are a Tolkien fan, you're not going to like it, and if you are even new to the franchise or Middle-earth and this creation, you're probably also going to feel very underwhelmed by the story that they are telling. We, of course, know with Tomb Raider, this live-action series has been in development for several years at this point, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge has also gotten $100 million for making absolutely nothing. I really personally don't want them to butcher Lara Croft, so this isn't very sad to me, but it is sad that we could have had what might have been a really great live action Lara adaptation, and that went nowhere. We also have The Wheel of Time. I've talked about this more recently, but The Wheel of Time was canceled by Prime Video after 3 seasons. It went completely off the rails, just like The Rings of Power. They didn't actually give a fuck about what Robert Jordan had written, and this is why I am extremely worried about 007, because nobody affiliated with this company has been listening to their fans for years. They have taken franchise and ruined it, And I have no faith in this, especially when they're talking about it being a new adaptation. The devs chose a James Bond origin story to help be more relatable to a younger audience, maybe, than the Bond franchise is used to. I personally don't think that picking a 26-year-old Bond who's kind of new to this world is going to bring in a lot of new fans. And really, it's just going to push away a lot of the existing audience you already had. I like origin stories. I am a fan of them when they are done well, but this would have only went over very successfully, in my opinion, if it had actually been a trilogy, if he would have evolved into the James Bond that we know. And so that younger audience they claim to want ends up actually paying more attention to Bond by the time you get there. But I have no faith in them at all whatsoever. So speaking to Games Radar Plus at Summer Games Fest, the 007 franchise director had said that the developer IO Interactive found the chance to set a story in a period of Bond's life that's not been covered much to be the exciting part of the project. We have a story to tell. The people are probably very curious to find out. What are the events and the people that shaped the character James Bond today? Was he always the womanizer that he is, or the strong man that he is? I also am very worried about the way that Bond is going to treat women. Is he going to see a woman and instantly get on his hands and knees and beg forgiveness for all of the sexist things he's done in the past? When you talk about modernizing and then you instantly bring up, him being a womanizer, it really makes you question why they truly decided to have a younger, modern Bond. Are they actually trying to apologize for the way that he's acted in the past? I know that Crystal Dynamics has certainly been doing that with Lara Croft. Oh my gosh, 2 ratings, bad, and you're stealing from different cultures and you're profiting from it. We need to cancel Lara Croft. Maybe they're doing the same exact thing here. They talk about how, this is aimed towards a gaming audience that is younger, maybe, than the franchise is used to. And that piece of demographic profiling is a big part of why they chose an origin story. It's a new story to tell, and also a story that would connect really well. That does come with its downsides. There's a lot of creative freedom attached to telling a whole new story, but at the same time, you have a lot of creative freedom. You have to come up with everything, which is true. I mean, maybe if you just followed the source material, it wouldn't be so tough. They also say it's not an adaptation, but that's what will allow us to make a great game. When you have all of this creative freedom, as IO is kind of boasting about, yes, that is good from a creative perspective because you can kind of do whatever you want. But as a fan of James Bond, hearing that you have complete creative freedom is extremely worrying, because there's not really those constraints that you have to follow that make James Bond what James Bond really is. So while I have a little bit of interest in this because I thought the trailers looked kind of cool, after hearing all of these interviews and how they wanted it to be aimed towards a younger, modern audience and how they're completely ditching the franchise lore, I am extremely nervous about this, and I'm sure so many of you are going to be as well. So I, of course, will be keeping my eye on this game as we continue to get information for it, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.